Okay, today I'm going to replace the fuel filter on this F-250 6.7 liter 2014. So I just bought this at Napa, I think. Kind of spendy, it's about $100. I'm gonna do the air filter while I'm at it as well. So there's two pieces to it. Here's the first piece right there. So you just unclip those two lines, and then it had, from the factory, it had like these two little slots that stick out, these pegs, and it was supposed to slip into a slot and then tighten up into that position, and then theoretically you'd rotate it back out and pull it up. But we could not get it out with any tool on the first time. So what I finally discovered was I just shaved those slots off, and then I just wiggle it down in there, and it does not go anywhere. Maybe somebody else's F-250 is better. This is what goes underneath the truck. So this is the deal right here, and you can see those slots. Maybe put it up. See those little pegs? Not slots, those little pegs. And then that little clip on the bottom theoretically is supposed to clip onto something, but I just wiggle it down in there. I actually lube it up with a little bit of oil so it'll wiggle down into the housing, because it's way too tight to get it into my housing on this 2014 F-250. But it's that simple. This just pops down in there, and then you pop those two pieces back on, and it's really easy. Underneath is a little more tricky, but not too bad. So let's get under there and I'll show you. Okay, here's the filter underneath the truck. This is the housing to the filter. And you just squeeze this guy and it comes off there. And get that up out of the way. And then have a bucket or something, and this is the drain to drain that housing out. Hopefully that bucket's enough. Once that drains, then you use this guy to rotate it off there. And then it rotates off, the housing does, and pops down, and there'll be a dirty, nasty filter in there, and you take that out, put a new one on. But you got to put the O-ring in as well, a new O-ring. All right, so we're just going to take these off here. One of the benefits of having a big truck is that you have a big truck, but one of the drawbacks is you have a big truck. So you gotta, if you're short like me, you gotta get up in here. I think this one pinches and comes straight up. The green does. They do not make these easy. Yeah, there it is. There's two little clips on the bottom. And this one, I think you just squeeze the white. So just to make it fun, they have two different kinds. Okay, you usually put this under here, if I remember right. Just to catch some dripping whatever, so not get fuel all over. There's not a lot. It doesn't come pouring out or anything. I've always undone that drain down below and got it to start draining. I don't know if that pulls it out of these two pipes or not, and so I don't get a lot of dripping. Maybe if you don't do that first step and try and take these off, that'll dribble out more, but I'm guessing it's fine either way. comes right off there. We just squeeze those and pulls it off. And then let's see if we can wrestle this guy out of there. I have my big old deal here off, and I have to really get after it to get it to come up out of there. It's really a ridiculous design on this model. Let me see if I can just grab it on this time. Nope, there's no wiggle there. All right, I'm gonna wrestle with it off camera. So I just grab it and I just start wiggling, and then it comes up and out. So it wasn't too bad. Like I said, I take a little angle grinder and cut those. Oops, spilled a little there. So you can see the housing back there, and some of it's broken off there in the back. But those pegs are supposed to drop down in a couple slots, and then it rotates and technically pins into place. But this thing isn't going to go anywhere, so they don't need those pegs. Oh, I didn't shave that one off last time because that little piece on the back rim there had snapped off. But the first few times I changed it before that piece snapped off, I had to shave those pegs off. Get it to drop down in there. Anyway, that's got a bunch of fuel in it. I'll dispose of that and drop the other one into place. Okay, I dropped the new one just right back into the same spot. And then that's gonna wiggle on there. There it goes. That's gonna wiggle on there. Put that down. And it's in. And that is not going anywhere. It doesn't need to rotate and clip. I don't understand that. Maybe if you got a Baja vehicle and you're bouncing it around all the time and it'll jiggle out, but even then, these are stiff enough, and this one has multiple lines, so it's really pinned in place. Anyway, so if you run into those problems, that's how I troubleshooted it before. And I brought rubber gloves out, and I forgot to put them on. Okay, that one below should be done draining. Getting close. Okay, I did put my gloves on. So I just turned that off because it was still dribbling a little bit. So I closed it so it's not running everywhere. Then I'm going to use this guy. And that is a 32 maybe? 32 millimeter. To just... come on. Sometimes it gets dirty up in there. All right, I'm gonna have to use two hands so I can leverage this better. All right, I had to really torque this time. You could hear the rubber gasket was just gripping it up in there. Up in here, the rubber gasket was gripping it. So I had to really get like right underneath it and pin one hand on the what do you call it? My brain wants to say crux, but the pivot point here, and then really torque on it. So I was getting it to go, and now it's turning, but this is the tightest I've had it before. And eventually it'll just drop down. And unfortunately, I'm trying to film myself, so. Okay. So you can see it's loose now. I'm afraid it's gonna splash down. I should have a bigger catch. Oh, geez, yeah, there's a bunch of fuel in there. Okay, I should have let it drain longer, but it was dribbling hardly any, so. Anyway. I'm just on my asphalt driveway, so it's not a big deal. It's just making a mess now. There's a lot of fuel there. A lot more than normal. But you can see how dirty that filter is. It doesn't take many months to get it dirty. And then up here is that gasket. You can see it up in there, and if you have a little pick hook to grab it with, that's great. Otherwise, I'm just going to use a normal little pick and kind of grab it, pull it, and drop it down. Okay, so I put the new O-ring up in there, and you just stretch it over and then roll it up into place, and then it hits a lip and pops right where it needs to go. So I'll just take this filter out of the housing here, and I'll show you that. Just see if I can do this one-handed. Again, normally I don't have this much fuel in there. I've drained it all out. I thought I had it drained. It's kind of silly. It's probably not the best example video because I'm being so messy. Normally I have it all drained out. It's a pretty slick job. And then you take that narrow end and put it right down in those clasps. Just like that. And then you screw it back up into place and hook your sensor back on. Alright. And you just thread it back on. Two hands again to get it. Can't believe how much fuel I got all over me. Normally I have it nice and clean and drained. Alright, I'm gonna have to use two. I do want to show that when it's all the way there, it'll clunk. Like you'll hear it go clunk and finish. And the peg there will be pointing back out the same way. So I had to crank this with this guy about 2 or 3 times, and then it's probably about to hit. But it's hard to do with one hand. You kind of need 2 hands. Right there, it just clunked and stuck. And that's the end of the turning. Put this guy back on. All right, once you got it on, you have to prime the system. So you turn your key. Find it. You turn your key on 6 times for 30 seconds, not starting the car, but just priming it. And you can hear it. You can hear it priming the system. So do that 6 times, 30 seconds. And while it's priming during those 30 seconds, I just kind of check both spots occasionally to make sure fuel's not popping out, squirting out. Okay, that's it. Now let's start it up. No fuel dripping. No fuel dripping. So that's it. That's how you change the fuel filter on a truck. Kind of a sloppy job this time. Normally I don't have fuel dripping everywhere. Gotta drain it for a good long time. That's how you do it.